Okay.
Oh,
5.
I'm so excited
4,
about tonight. You know why?
3.
Why? Tell me.
Because tomorrow's
2,
Friday.
1.
Oh my gosh.
He's
And we're
like, no
live.
way, for
Talking
real?
about Friday.
Gnarly. That's what my
Thanks.
guy says. That's what my avatar says.
That's what your avatar says?
Yeah, he's like, no way, for real? Gnarly.
Oh,
He looks at
really?
She
Yeah.
said gnarly. Who says gnarly anymore?
Ever since we started doing the show, I started doing gnarly.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Hello. Hey, James, I just got to say, your wife yesterday made an awesome show. She was on point, and I just want to say up front that she was a killer guest. And
So I'm gonna go ahead and top you on that, Joe.
Oh.
Not only was she a killer guest, but her words motivated me today. Found some motivation deep within me to go run and to go bike riding.
What? Both?
Yes.
Her
I'm
words
not
did?
even kidding you. I almost did 5 miles on both, a combination of both. I mean, but I seriously have just been struggling with motivation here lately. Not energy, just motivation. And yesterday, and I went back and watched the show today. And I was like, let me get those 4 points written down. And that's when I text you. I was like, look, I said, I'm rewatching and I'm not all the way where I want to be, but I've accepted it. I'm learning what I need to do with it. And I'm serious. Like I felt, is it re-energized? I mean, I did. I went out today and everybody's like, oh my gosh, Sandy, this is the first time I've met my group, of course, with everything else, but it's the first time that I've been with my group.
Wow, Sandy, that's awesome. I can't wait to tell her that. She's going to be super pumped. That was one of her things was like, okay, so it was awareness, understanding why, acceptance, and what was that last one? Strategize?
Strategy.
Yeah, strategize.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, strategize. I can tell you, while I was motivated, I did not do those things.
Yeah, so we just got back in, so I'm a little. I didn't even.
You're a little winded.
I was like, well, this is.
You're a little discombobulated, Sandy.
Yeah,
Is that what you say?
I'm trying to fix my hair.
Oh, speaking of which, that was you're a little bamboozled tonight, huh?
Yes.
You're kind of flabbergasting everyone.
We've brought up the power words, y'all. Watch out now. Watch out.
Oh, where did y'all put them?
You might learn something.
Joe has a special channel on the Discord.
On the Discord there.
Just has that one document there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
So before we get started, guys, I did want to share with everyone, and hopefully when they replay this too, Joe, Sandy, and I appreciate the words, Joe and Sandy, tremendously. And I was definitely giddy over my wife being on there. And I went upstairs and was hanging out with her for the rest of the night until she fell asleep. And I was just like, you were fantastic. That was awesome. And I was like, man, that was great. And then I was just telling her, encouraging her. I was like, you blew it out of the park. You're definitely one of the all-time, my favorite guests, obviously. And so
no bias.
None. And I was like, I was like, you just did fantastic. So, but Joe, Sandy, and I were talking after the show, and we did want to do a special plug last night, and we ran out of time. So we definitely wanted to make sure we did that today. And that was really just to iterate a point that with mental health therapy, you don't need to be sick to see a therapist, and it doesn't need to be a taboo subject.
Right.
I tell people all the time, obviously because my wife is a therapist, but I tell people all the time, therapists, like, you don't need to be sick, and you shouldn't have to feel negative about it, but you also shouldn't have to feel like you need to share it with everyone if you don't feel like it.
Right.
I tell people all the time, there's just something awesome to me when you pay someone to listen to you and only focus on you and help you. Like, the whole session is about you. You think you have friends, but to be honest with you, friends, we're good. My wife said last night that it's good to have those mirrors,
relationships,
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it is not a bad thing to go see a therapist, even if you just feel like you need someone to talk to. And so some of you guys, you feel like you're alone, or you feel like no one listens to you, or you need a friend, or you just want someone to listen to you. Find a therapist. It is okay to go see them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was good. I seriously, today I'm, like I said, I'm not there where I want to be, but I'm better than I was yesterday. So,
amen.
Definitely awesome.
Congratulations, Sandy.
That's pretty
awesome.
Cool. So how was y'all's day?
Well, my day was good.
He was like, yeah.
I was, I started out with a different mentality. So, of course, when you start out on a positive note, then everything's just going to be better. I was busy, and I've been busy, which is great, but just knowing, I'm like, okay, today I'm going to go run. And of course, and then the funny part is I was like, I'm going to take Johnny Cash with me. Well, that was a big mistake.
Oh, I saw that. He gave up after a mile.
He gave up after
Oh,
a
did he
mile.
really?
Yes.
That's so
he
funny
did.
because he went 3/4 a mile further than I would have.
Right.
That's so funny.
Yeah, and he's run with Eric. I think he's done like 2-3 miles with him, but he just didn't have it in him today. He had no steam whatsoever. He's like, I'm out. And
He's
he
like-
popped himself in the shade, and I'm like, okay, I can't carry you. You're way too big for me.
He was like, peace.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm out, Ma. I'm out. That's it.
But that was it. And Eric made some super delicious meatballs tonight.
Mm.
And anyway, he didn't.
They weren't meatless meatballs, were they?
We don't do meatless.
Like the cauliflower wings.
We don't.
Oh,
I love cauliflower wings are legit, okay, but we're not like we love meat. No,
You guys try out cauliflower wings and let Sandy know if they really were all that they're cracked up to be.
They are.
Joe and I are
great.
like,
I've made them before.
yeah.
I know.
I want to like it, Sandy. I just can't handle. There's something about cauliflower. It's the one vegetable that I just cannot get along with.
Really?
Yeah, the
That's
other
like-
ones I force myself to eat, and some of them are okay to eat, but cauliflower is the one that's huge no.
Man, all vegetables are no in my book.
Oh no,
That's right,
I
you said
love
that-
vegetables. I love fruit.
You said, Joe, that your like vegetables were like not a staple in your house, like when y'all were growing up or something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We had a lot of hamburger helper.
That's
So-
right. That's what you said.
Yeah. So,
Ah.
if it wasn't hamburger helper, it was hot dogs, it
Hieronymus.
was spaghetti, not very much veggie stuff. Yeah.
Hi, Carrie.
My mom would try to serve that to us, and she would be the only one that ate it.
You know what my mom would try to do? Because my mom, our
Thanks,
entire
Anita.
life, we grew up with home with tortillas and homemade tortillas.
Yes.
And then she would get tired. I mean, it's exhausting making tortillas. And so she would try to buy the store-bought ones, and she would sneak in those little stinky feet tortillas.
Oh
in
yeah.
between
You'd be
hers.
like,
And we would be
you'd
like,
like, ¿qué
Nope,
son
these aren't
esos?
Like, no, it did not work.
no.
Mm.
And so we would eat those.
So, buddy, y'all remember Cindy who came on the show recently, right? The massage therapist.
Yes.
So she introduced me. I haven't used them, but they found these packaged tortillas at the store that are like pre-rolled, post-rolled, pre-cooked tortillas, and they look like pastry circles.
Oh, yes. So they're raw, and then you just cook them on your comal.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they turn out looking like tortillas.
They're
I'm kind of
good.
hesitant about it, but I'm like,
No, don't be hesitant. They're actually pretty decent.
They're,
I
we've
haven't
had
had
them.
one, but
They're okay.
Look at this blasphemy that Carrie
What?
Patton Jackson found. Y'all, I saw a meme today with pizza flavored Pringles with an actual piece of pineapple on each chip. I would chuck that can of Pringles so far. Unbelievable.
right. So far to the
How do you
back
really
of my
feel, Joe?
pantry.
Yeah, just like I'd be stomping on it like a roach or something.
I love it. I love it. I think it's the greatest stuff. Anita was asking you earlier, Sandy, what happened to the spaghetti?
We ate spaghetti. I don't know what she's talking about.
Let us know what you're talking about, Anita, because
Yeah,
I'm
what are you
lost a
talking
little
about,
too.
girl?
Yeah, she
So,
ate it. She ate it down.
So can I go next, Sandy?
Oh, I'm done talking.
Oh, okay. I had so I was planning on going to work this morning, and then my wife, she actually didn't feel good today, and so she was
Because
like,
we
"Can
kept
you?"
her up too late.
And I thought about that too. I really thought about that because she was like, she texted me really early, and I didn't catch it. But when I got up, I was like, "Babe," and I went upstairs, and I was like, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And she was like, "I'm not feeling good. Can you?" And then she gave me a list of honeydew things, and I was like, and so I was just like, man, I thought she just needed some more rest, right, to sleep in. Poor thing was like out all day.
Oh, that's
Oh,
not
Whoa.
good.
So I stayed home to take care of the kiddos and stuff, and then I ordered some sand, and they delivered me like 3/4 of a ton of sand. And then I was out there this afternoon, and I'm tired right now, guys. Like I'm so sleepy and sore. I'm
I was
gonna
gonna say
feel
you're gonna
tomorrow.
be sore tomorrow.
Yeah, I was shoveling sand from wherever they dropped it because I was like, dang it, I told them to put it on a slope, and I should have put it over here, but I had to take the tape measure out, and I was spray painting the diameter, And then I had to move the sand into that circle and pat it down. I was like, and it was hot. It was hot today, so I'm sweating. My neighbor
What's hot?
Bob, huh?
What's hot over
The
there?
temperature.
I know, but what I'm saying, what's your number?
Oh, 90, 95, somewhere
Oh,
between there.
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So I was like, oh my
I think you're
gosh.
just lying. You looked at our
I'm not lying, girl. I'm not lying. Anyway, so he helped me. Bob, thank you, Bob. I know you're watching, but my neighbor came over. He says, "You need some help, hi man?" I was like,
Can I say thank you, Peach Bob?
Hey, that's not the Bob that you scared the skunks into his yard, Bob, is it?
It is. I'm going to call Bob.
It's the other Bob.
That's the
It's my
other
other neighbor, Bob. Actually, no, it was. Yes, it was. So it's
And
all
he's over
right.
here helping you spread sand.
Right,
He was.
right.
Oh, and so then tonight, my little one had a horseback riding again. And guys, I was on the phone with a buddy, and I could see some dust to my left. And so I was like, huh? Yeah, I was just listening. I was like, what's going on? And I saw some shadow over there, and I was like, what? And then from behind the trees, my little one comes galloping out of there, and I was like,
No.
oh my freaking God. And I was like, dude. And he was talking about some deep stuff, but I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. My daughter is literally galloping on a horse right now. It is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I was like, I can't believe it. And she was just there like, boo, 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 you know, and she was like mastering it, and her eyes were focused, and she was controlling that. And I was like,
Wow.
this is the coolest thing ever right now. This is the coolest thing. So
You're like, she's that close to being an Amazonian.
right. It was, I loved it. I loved it. Anyway, so that was my day, and yeah, it was a pretty good day for not having to go to work. So
Right, right. Hey, Jamie,
mhm.
who do we have on the show?
That's a good question, Joe. So let me tell you guys, we've been talking about having the series on wellness, and tonight we're going to be discussing occupational wellness, right? So we're looking at the dimension. And one of the things is occupation. I'm going to just read a sentence that I'm going to take right here. It says, occupational vocational wellness involves preparing and making use of your gifts, skills, and talents in order to gain purpose, happiness, and enrichment in your life. So Joe had mentioned that he had a friend that was going to come on, and he was actually raving and talking about this guy. He was like, I really want to get this guy. I'm really working to have him come on. And I was like, okay, well, let's make it happen. Go talk to him and see if he wants to. And so he talked to him, and he said, yeah, he was willing to come on. So let me tell you a little bit about him. His name is Trevor Franklin. He's a certified personal trainer in Lubbock, Texas. He's going to come and talk to us.
From Lubbock, Texas.
I'm sorry. You're right. From Lubbock, Texas. Thanks, Joe. So he's from Lubbock, Texas. He is going to talk about the thing that he loves to do. And you ever hear about that time where you wish you had a job where it wasn't really a job, but it really felt like just something you love doing, and it would be great if you could just get paid for that? So that's kind of what Trevor's going to come in today and tell us. He has a passion for this. And when we're talking about occupational dimension of wellness, like that's the goal for all of us, is to find something that we love to do and then to be able to get paid to do that kind of thing. So without further ado, help us welcome Trevor Franklin to the Social and Distancing Show.
Yay!
What an intro.
I'm telling you, Trevor, we built you up, and if you fall on your face, it's your own fault.
Right.
Tear myself down as fast as possible. Hey, I'm glad I'm a wellness expert. I'm pretty sure I've eaten more pizza than most viewers in the past like 48 to 50 hours.
Pineapples?
So. Oh, always pepperoni pineapple.
Yes.
That's my jam.
Oh my goodness, Trevor, I'm unfriending you right now.
Should I leave now? Bad connection. Like, get me out of here. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on.
No
Thanks
problem.
for coming on, man. You were built up before that intro was even developed for you, man. So Joe was
I've been
really
skipping
like
Joe 20s for years.
Right.
You're gonna take my photos, man.
Exactly.
You got me. You got me out here.
So Trevor, I know Joe knows you, and you guys are good friends and things. So, but for us, for Sandy and I, and all of our other viewers, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about what you do right now?
Yeah, so what's up, guys? Everybody viewing? My name is Trevor Franklin. Like we talked about a second ago, I grew up in Lubbock, Texas. So from the ages of 3 to about 23, I was in Lubbock, Texas. I went to Shallwater High School. I went to Texas Tech for a stint before I dropped out. And now I'm in New York City. So my official title is group fitness trainer and one-on-one personal trainer. I work at a studio called Performance House in New York City, but I got my start at Orangetheory Fitness in Lubbock, Texas. So that's kind of like my background where I'm at right now.
Okay, Orange Theory. I've seen that. My kids always used to tell me,
Yeah.
"Daddy, can you take us to Orange Theory?" And I'd be like, "Why?" And then it'd be like,
Yeah. It's
"You
not like Chuck E.
mean
Cheese. Yeah.
no. But we have a place up here. I'm in Illinois, so up here.
Oh,
But I'm
okay.
from Texas, from Lubbock, Texas. But we have a place called Orange Leaf, and Orange Leaf is a place to take the kids to for their yogurt and everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
slightly
definitely not a
different.
yogurt
Opposite.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally the
They
opposite.
don't have yogurt yet. They don't have yogurt yet.
Oh,
That might be the next move for them, though.
Check
So-
this out. You got Jade Bierman here, best guy ever.
Jade, best friend on the entire planet.
Oh,
What up, Jade?
and then Carrie said on your pineapples and pepperoni, she said goodbye.
Carrie, get out of here. Unfriend. Block.
negativity in here, Terry.
Yeah, I can't handle the negativity. All right. Who hurt you, Carrie?
Right. So Trevor, listen, we're doing this whole series, like I said, on 7 Dimensions of Wellness, and Joe thought you were a really good fit to talk about the occupational dimension, and not so much as being able to talk about the occupational dimension, but that just means being able to talk to us about what it is that you love to do. So why don't you tell us about what it is that you love to do, and then how you got there?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, thank you guys for having me on. I don't know if I said that or not, but I really appreciate being able to spend some time with you guys. But yeah, my story is kind of interesting, I guess. Again, I grew up in kind of a small Texas town, so right outside of Lubbock. So small high school. I was able to play a lot of sports. I'm a really competitive individual, so I've always loved being athletic, training the body like an athlete, and being able to move the body, any way that I see fit, or approach any obstacles or challenges that life, might throw at me. So I've always had like a fitness background, if you will. But for example, out of college, I worked, like your typical 9-to-5 jobs. Like I would just do odd jobs. So I was working for this company called Germ Blast in Lubbock for a while, and it was just like not my cup of tea, right? So we were working, really long hours. I wasn't really able to work out. I wasn't able to, cook meals that would nourish my body. I was eating a lot of fast food, and so, I'm sure a lot of people that might be listening, or even you guys have been there. It's almost like a snowball effect, right?
Right.
It might start with one small thing, and it starts to grow and develop, and then all of a sudden it's like 4 months down the road, and you're like, what on earth has happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I just fell off the railroad tracks. And so it's kind of funny how it happened. I actually got fired from that job for having a poor attitude, right? Me.
I wonder why.
The most positive guy on the face of the planet had a poor attitude and got fired. So
young ones watching, yes, if you have a poor attitude or you don't like your job, people can notice and do something about it.
Yeah, they'll get rid of you immediately. And so, for me, that was a big time wake up call, because again, I didn't enjoy the space that I was in. I didn't enjoy the work that I was doing. It paid well, but that didn't bring me happiness. It didn't bring me joy. I didn't feel fulfilled. Right. And so it was kind of an interesting phase for me, because I've always been success driven, like in a financial standpoint. I've had multiple jobs since I was like 15, and my parents always instilled for me that, work hard, make money, be successful, and you'll flourish. Right. And so, I'm like an unemployed college kid, like, what am I doing? I'm about to move in my parents' basement again. It's going to be terrible. Like, this is not good. Like, this is like 2 hours after it happens, right? So I'm at like DEFCON, like code red, like, get me out of here. What do I do? And so, it took a lot of soul searching for me, but it's funny because it was such a simple answer, right? I loved fitness. Fitness is what, kept me sane during days where I worked 12 to 16 hours. And so, I was kind of like, well, why don't I just do that? Right. And so I did a certification course online while I was still in school. Completed that in like 2 or 3 months. Then I went and applied at every gym in Lubbock. Thankfully, shout out to Orangetheory Fitness Lubbock, Texas, for giving me a start when everybody else said no, right? Because everybody else was like, no experience. Like, what? No, like, you got fired from your last job. Sorry, they're not going to call them.
Poor attitude.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Get them out of here. Yeah. Fitness and poor attitude don't go together. Yeah. And so I started working at the Orangetheory Fitness in Lubbock, and it went really well. I built a really cool relationship with a lot of members there, a lot of the staff there that I still call friends today. And then once I started killing it at Orangetheory Lubbock, I started working at a one-on-one gym there called Guns Up Fitness, that at the time was owned by Adam and Zach Morrow, and they were the bomb. They were great. I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot about how to kind of laser focus my passion, because I had a passion for fitness, right? But as far as like an educational standpoint, I was lacking a little bit. I didn't study a whole lot of anatomy and biology. I didn't major in kinesiology or anything like that. I just knew how to talk to people, right? Which in itself can be a big part of the fitness industry. And so they were there to kind of help laser focus guide me, and kind of hone in on my skill set. And I would say within like 2 or 3 months, I had a full client book and I was still coaching group fitness. And so things were really good for me in Lubbock. I was doing really well, and I enjoyed what I was doing. But I honestly got just kind of bored with what I was doing, and I didn't feel like I was challenging myself enough, right? So
bored
I kind of got
in Lubbock, Texas. Really?
I love Lubbock. I love Lubbock to death, right? But you got to get out sometimes,
right?
No matter where you grow up, so you got to leave your hometown,
right?
Because the world is bigger than a 50-mile radius from wherever you're born.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Contrary to popular belief. Right?
Trevor, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm out, man. I'm 15 hours away from where I grew up. So
yeah. I love it. And so, again, my parents were a big time cornerstone in a lot of this stuff. And they were always challenging me to, push yourself, like their biggest fear for me, I think, was they didn't want me to be, 50, 60 years old, look back and be like, man, what if? Right? Like they'd rather say I tried versus the what if factor. And so things just kind of lined up nicely for me, where a modeling agency scouted me on Facebook. They flew me down for some test shoots. Things went really well. Shout out to Joe for having great test images to send them. And so, from there, they wanted me in New York, and I made the executive decision to drop out of school as soon as I could and just book a flight ticket. It was kind of like burn the ships and don't plan on a return trip home. Yeah. My plan was either be successful in where I am today or be homeless on the corner of 9th and 5th, those are my two options. And so, I think the big part of that was that I was always taught to bet on myself. I'm a big time believer in having like a victor mentality versus a victim mentality. And so, everything that I was raised on was have the self-confidence that whatever situation you're put in, you're going to flourish in that. And, I was very blessed in finding my passion at an early age. I know a lot of people, it's tough because, at 17 years old, you got to ask to go to the bathroom. And then at 18, you got to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right? So, I totally get that. Yeah, seriously, I totally get that. And college isn't cheap. And so I was very blessed to, find my passion and realize that I didn't need, a quote unquote, good education, if you will, to get me there. Like a piece of paper didn't determine my value in the fitness realm. And none of my clients since then have asked me what my certifications are. If they do, usually we don't work out. So, so it worked out well. So I moved to New York. I started at Orangetheory, one of the Orange Theories here. I did the modeling a little bit, but again, my passion outweighed this other thing that was a fleeting thing, right? Because that's all a relative deal. Modeling is a very superficial thing, and there's always someone younger, more attractive, and whatever than you. And
better
it's
abs.
not. Yeah, exactly. I eat too much pizza, man. Like I can't do it. I can't hang with these young bucks, And so, for me, it was kind of like, okay, what? Again, I always go back to what brings you joy and what brings you fulfillment. Because, if you're working a job where, sure, you might make a lot of money, but it takes away from your soul, then like, what are you actually achieving, right? Like, what are you leaving behind? What is your legacy? And how are you helping others, right? Like what's the point of life if you just go through being selfish and worrying about your own self and then you die alone,
Right.
That's not, in my mind, at least, how it's supposed to be. And so I was having a much larger impact and a much more influence on individuals through group fitness. right? Through my classes at Orangetheory Fitness. And for the course of the 3 years that I was with Orangetheory in New York, I averaged a 98% utilization. So my classes averaged 98% full no matter where I went. And
Wow.
and you know, I not to like be braggadocious, whatever. Again, college dropout, don't know good grammar, but
Braggadocious. I like that.
braggadociosis. Yeah. I know what I'm good at, and where I believe my talent lies is being an extreme empath. And so I like to pride myself in the aspect that I'm able to put myself in other people's shoes, and I'm able to coach them to what they need to be coached on, right? Like, I'm not going to coach an athlete the same way that I coach somebody that comes in overweight and that has hated looking at themselves in the mirror for the past year. You know, it's a totally different exchange, and it's a totally different conversation with that individual. And the ability to make somebody feel comfortable in an environment when they're incredibly naturally going to be uncomfortable is something that I've really strived to, you know, get better at and to portray as well. You know, and again, that comes from the passion of wanting to help as many people as I can in the biggest scale that I can. Right. Because I mean, for me personally, physical fitness has led to all the accomplishments and all the success that I've had. It's opened a lot of doors for me that would not have been, you know, achievable without the realm of health, wellness, you know, the physical fitness mindset, the aesthetics of like perfecting the physique, like different things like that. It wouldn't have happened without that. And so the more people that I can kind of, you know, put on that road and show them the light of what it's brought to my life, which has been a lot of joy and fulfillment. I believe the more I'm fulfilled, it's almost selfish in a way because it fulfills me, but it also, I mean, I can't tell you how incredible it is to see somebody have the self-confidence of, you know, increasing their deadlift by 40 pounds in a span of 3 months, right? Or cutting down their mile time by just 10 seconds in 2 months, you know, just having that mentality of, you know, whatever it is, I can accomplish it through hard work. And I have people that are going to believe in me and get me there. It like gets my heart, like I want to go run right now. And it's like 11 PM, like it's way past my bedtime. You know? Like, no way should I be up right now, but it gets me going. And that's what, you know, gets me up on a 4 a.m. morning, and that's what keeps me awake at 10, 11 p.m. at night, because like this is something that isn't going to sleep. There are so many people out there that don't believe in themselves, or, you know, they have a toxic relationship with a family member, a spouse, somebody that they're close to that's like putting them down, you know, and the lack of self-confidence is just such a big problem that I see day in and day out, whether it be through social media or interpersonal relationships. It's frustrating to see, you know, because we all have this unique potential as humans, and it's our job to unlock it and find it out and then pursue that, right? Like pursue the heck out of it. Like that's my only objective for the past 3 years has been to pursue what brings me joy to my fullest capacity, and then hope that I bring people with me along the way, and I can kind of shove that joy down their throat at the same time to where they don't have a choice but to accept it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, Trevor, as you're talking, you're making me think there's a buddy of mine up here, and I'm going to put him on blast right now. So, Brian Teller, that guy, he's a guy I've known through Toastmasters. I've been Toastmasters for quite a while. And recently he had wanted to start a podcast, but he wanted to get over a fear that he has of doing like Facebook Live, you know, like this, where people can see him. And he went through a challenge. He challenged himself to do 10 days of going online and doing a live broadcast and just talking and doing and just communicating to the camera. And so I was tuning in as much as I could through those days. And I was just like, dude, I would talk to him off the camera and I'd be like, man, you're like my hero right now, man. You have a goal. It's something that's scary, and you're totally doing it every day. You're going after it. He ended the challenge at 8 days because he felt confident in his ability to do it. He felt like he mastered it beforehand, and I was like, dude, more power to you. Right. And I love those kind of stories. What you're talking about. It's not in the fitness realm, but overcoming that or gaining that confidence. You know.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter. Right? Like once you have the self-confidence to succeed, it's like everything else just kind of falls to the wayside and it's a null point, you know? Like once you have that crystal clear goal, like that light at the end of the tunnel, like this is what I need to achieve to like bring me that joy and that fulfillment. It's like game over. Like it's a wrap, like call it. I just need the time, that's all I
Yeah.
need. It's like the time to get there. That's it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Trevor? Can you tell us? I think one of the things that I get hung up on sometimes, for example, it can be is that the fear of the unknown, right? So if I'm in that job that I don't like, it takes me getting pushed out of it for me to feel like, okay, now I can go spread my wings and see what's out there.
Yeah.
But I don't really consider that really spreading my wings, because if that was the case, I feel like I'd have left and been like, anyway, my point is that it can be challenging. It can be scaring. I get that you were kind of pushed out in that same way too, but what do you have to say to people who would be like, I want to do that, Trevor. I want to go follow my dream. I want to go do what I love, but I'm so scared about letting go of what I'm safe in now, or comfortable, or, whatever other adjective you want to use.
No, I totally understand that. And again, I went through a very similar phase that lasted probably about a week of like, okay, I'm about to lose 10 clients, right? I'm about to move out of a house that I was paying $400 a month for to go pay $7.
Oh, wait. Hold on. We lost your sound. We lost your sound. I think your headphones died.
Oh no.
No, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Are we back?
Yes.
Yeah, now you're back.
That was the government listening to me and not allowing me to tell you guys New York rent prices. They were like, you better not spend that info.
How much was it?
So I lived in a house in Lubbock and I was paying $400 a month. When I moved to New York, I went to paying $1,700 a month, like overnight.
Jeez.
For a smaller,
my rent quadrupled.
For a way smaller house or apartment, even.
I had a half a house, and now it's like me and it's like a frat house, like me and two other guys, and we got one bathroom.
Oh my God.
It's different. It's different. We're living a whole different life up here. But yeah, so I went through a very similar phase where I'm like, if you wrote that on paper, and gave it to a third party, like, hey, is this a good idea? Like 10 out of 10 people, I'm like, no, this person's dumb. Like, it makes no sense, right? But I'm going to tell you, man, it's those intangibles. And I'm kind of like, it's probably not the best way to put it, but my whole thing with this is like, look, we're all going to die one day, right? Yeah. Like, the only thing guaranteed in life is death.
Exactly.
And you know what I don't want on my tombstone? That you lived in one place your entire life and you never took a chance on yourself, right? You never were like, you know what? I think I can do this better than X, Y, and Z,
Right.
And so for me, it was almost like I wanted to prove something, like I wanted to prove that I could grow up in a Lubbock, Texas town or a small town, go to one of the biggest meccas in the fitness industry and crush it. That's all I set my sights on. And as a competitor, it was kind of like, I'm either going to do this or again, I'm going to be in a homeless guy on the street. I'm just going to die here. That was it. Like to me, the failure, when the blinders were on, it was kind of like, it's my way or the highway. It's not going to happen. Like, I'm not going to not succeed.
Failure was never an option.
Yeah, like I couldn't even think that way, because if I did, then it's like, why am I even here, right? Because as soon as that doubt creeps in on your mind, that's all you hear. That's all you're going to hear is the doubts of, you know what, this probably isn't a good idea. Like, what are these people thinking of me? Like, you only moved with one suitcase. What are you doing? Like, there's a million reasons why not to.
You can still come back to Lubbock. You can still come back to Lubbock.
And again, that's the thing. Like, I'm fortunate because my family's always been there for me. It's like, if let's say things didn't pan out, my family would always be there, But again, I didn't want that to be in my mind at all. It was like, I'm going to do this, right? And in 5 years, I'm going to determine if I want to stay in New York, if I want to leave, right? But it's going to be on my terms,
right?
I like that part.
And so, as soon as I got here, that was my mentality. I was like, look, I'll work a 20-hour day. I don't care. Right. When I moved here, for the first probably 8 to 9 months, I was coaching like 30 classes a week, which for fitness people, that's you yelling on a microphone for 30 hours out of your week. It's pretty aggressive. And so, I was willing to do the work that others weren't. But like Joe said in the beginning, or maybe all of you guys might have said in the beginning, it's not a job to me. There has not been a morning that I've woken up. Maybe I've been tired, right? Yeah. But there hasn't been a morning I've woken up and been like, you know what? I really just don't want to go help these 30 plus people achieve their fitness goals today, because it's different. Like, it's different when you have people relying on you, and when you have people relying on you and you're so ingrained in their success and you're so ingrained in their lives, it's I don't really know how to explain it, but it's what gets me fired up. And that's like my burning passion is helping others, right? And how can I help others in the best possible way so that they can look in the mirror and be fulfilled with what they're doing? You know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
Because again, I can't tell you what it's like to see somebody's light switch. Like like Jamie, probably with your friend, right? When the light switch clicked and they're like, I can do this. Like, I have the ability to do this. And you're like, oh my gosh. Right?
Yeah.
You want to like hug them, you know? Like,
You want to hug them. You want to
somebody.
I want to cheer you, man. I want to be like a cheerleader for you. Cause I'm like, that kind of stuff like pumps me up when I see people who, cause it's not easy. We had a guest a little while back, Tim Harlow, and he was pretty nervous about coming. We had him as a guest host. He was extremely nervous. His wife had talked to me and she was like, will you please encourage him and pray with him and make sure he, just assure him. And I was like, absolutely. We never want any of our guests or visitors on the show to feel like this is strenuous for them. We want them to feel as comfortable and as easygoing as possible. But he came on the show that day and it was hilarious.
Yeah, he killed it. Him and his chair killed it.
Oh man, it was so funny. And we were laughing like throughout the whole thing. And I mean, it was fantastic. But afterwards I was like, Tim, man, you totally rocked it, dude. I was like, dude, that was so funny. And he had practiced, and I just love seeing work. When you challenge yourself, when you get out of that comfort zone, and even if you fail, like I look at a person who fails when they get out of their comfort zone, and I'm like, dude, you're a stud, man. I don't care what anybody says. Like, you got out of there. Like, there's a difference between you getting out and failing, and then someone else still behind the line kind of thing.
Yeah, I have more respect for those people that actually will try it than for those that don't even try it. Like, so I drive by this place, I drive by the park in the morning and I see this lady walking around our park and I'm like, good for her, because I suck.
She's crushing it.
She's putting in work, and I'm just like, I'm in awe. I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, it's cold out. She's got a full on coat. And she's not making excuses, and she's out there just walking through it. And I'm just like, man, Joe, what are you going to do with life?
Right.
Probably because they're doing a video show at 10 p.m., Joe.
Right, exactly.
You're probably getting a full 9 hours of sleep.
Yeah, I'm up a little late. Yeah. So Trevor, what's the future look like for you? What are it feels like that you've achieved, like, I would say, a majority of your dream. Is there something even bigger on the horizon that you're like actually going for?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always like a next level for me. No matter what I achieve, I would hope that there's always like a next level. Like, I never want to be at a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm content. I'm just gonna like buy a farm and like go chill for the rest of my life.
Back in Lubbock.
Because right from Lubbock. Yeah. I just don't think that I'm programmed that way. I think that it's always like, and it can be kind of a negative thing, always thinking what's next, and it can sometimes be hard to live in the moment. But right now, my objective is to continue doing what I'm doing. I've been fortunate to fill my client book here in New York. I'm doing a lot of one-on-one training right now until group fitness opens back up in the city. And so right now, it's just continue servicing my clients to the best of my ability. And again, just helping as many people as possible and kind of shoving that passion on them as much as I can. I think in the future, what I would really like to do is get into the space of one of two things: get into the space of either traveling the world or the country and leading fitness retreats on my own with my own branding, or moving to a location where I feel like I could, maybe plant some roots and starting my own fitness concepts. Both of those I could see happening. I think it's going to be kind of a waiting game to see which one makes the most sense for me, both location wise and financially, obviously. But one of my main objectives when I moved to New York City was I gave myself a 5-year layout. Okay. And from day 1 to the end of year 5, I wanted to be one of the top 5 most well-known either group fitness or one-on-one trainers in the city. So when you Google New York City personal trainers, I would be one of those on that list. And,
nice.
I'm not, obviously that's a relative thing, and it's kind of a silly goal because there's not really a way to quantify that, I don't think. But, selfishly, like, I wanted to come into this market and like cause some shockwaves. And so I feel like I've definitely made some progress and some headway in that direction. But there's always going to be work to be done in that realm. And, I might get to a point where that goal doesn't service me any longer, because again, there's always somebody younger. There's always somebody more ambitious. There's always somebody with maybe more connections than myself. And so now I'm really working on my personal mentality and my personal, my personal self-confidence, if you will, but also constantly evolving what brings me that joy and that fulfillment, right? Because it's changed a little bit. No longer do I want to coach 30 plus classes a week because it destroys me, right? Like I'm probably 5 hours of yelling away from a vocal surgery, And so I've had to pivot. I've had to pivot a little bit and go more into the one-on-one training and figure out different ways to spread what I do. And again, I've been very fortunate to have that take off here recently, and I can only see it getting more and doing better and better as time goes on. And so eventually I'll have to come to that crossroads of, do I stay in New York City or do I decide to go back to the Midwest with my family?
So that's a great point. Actually, what a lot of people need to understand is that even though you may have hit your passion or you have that passion, it's okay to pivot it a little bit or to change your course in order to keep that passion fulfilled or whatever. So don't think that just because you've made it that you can't switch it around a little bit, as long as you're following what your heart is telling you.
Yeah, for sure, man. And again, it's like, maybe like for me, another goal was like, I want to be on a billboard in Times Square because I think I'm going to be this fitness model. And it's like, I got here and I'm like, that's dumb. Like, I don't want that at all. Like, my grandma would be so embarrassed. Like, there's no way that should happen.
No, she wouldn't. She would be so proud.
Depends on what I was wearing, probably. But that's the thing. It's like, it's so great to have these huge dreams and these huge aspirations, but it's like constantly be thinking on them, right? Like, don't just put your head down and blindly run at these objectives without having the cognizance of seeing maybe what's on the side of the road. Because honestly, Orangetheory was such a huge blessing for me when I moved to New York City, but it was an even bigger blessing to be able to get out of that realm and move on to something else, because it led to opportunities that I didn't even think were achievable when I first moved here. And so it's like, having blinders on, but still kind of peeking at the side of the road to see what's going on every now and then can still be self-servicing as well. And for me personally, a big part of that tying back is to continue living in the moment. Because again, like I said, when I moved here, it was like go, 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 right? I didn't think about the day by day. I was thinking 6 to 8 months ahead of what kind of achievements I was going to make. And it worked well for me then. But I've noticed it slowing down and really enjoying life right now has also led me to some pretty incredible opportunities without as much stress and struggle and strain.
And sometimes that's an okay trade-off, right? Like, yeah, you may lose some of that money that you're making, the good money, and you might have to adjust your lifestyle a little bit. But when you trade that off to, man, I don't feel as stressed either, or I'm feeling like I'm actually accomplishing something, or I feel like I'm really helping out in, if your thing is saving the planet and you feel like you're doing that, then that trade-off that you get for that is worth it sometimes, right?
Yeah, well, it's all about the balance. It's kind of like you can't just work your entire life, because then you're going to have no interpersonal relationships and no, legacy. But you can't only focus on your relationships and your legacy, because then where are you going to go? You have to have that balance of the two, in my mind, at least, to kind of keep you sane, if you will, and to keep you going, because there's a lot of value in having people that you love surround you, and that's stuff that you're not going to find just by working your life away. But I also believe that a hard work ethic can bring you a lot of really amazing things that you can tie into, a loving relationship, whether it be with, spouse, kids, or friends and family. So it's finding that balance between the two, to where you're not working yourself to death, but you're maximizing your time, right? It's kind of like, being busy versus being productive. It's like, be productive, make strides and progress without just spinning your wheels all the time.
Right. Like sometimes, guys, you're in that job and you feel like it drains or it takes away from you, and sometimes, or maybe you just don't have that drive for it. And there are times where I've definitely felt like that. I feel like my job is just draining. But when I usually feel like that, I try to adjust some things in my life. I try to put boundaries on my job. For example, real simple things such as my lunches are my lunches. I'm clocking out and I'm getting the step out of here. You know, even if I'm going to go sit down at Subway or I'm just going to walk around at Walmart, whatever. I'm getting away from work. I'm
He's gonna get a
detaching from that.
Popeyes chicken sandwich.
I'm gonna
Right.
get a Popeyes chicken sandwich. I'm gonna eat that mug happily in my car, something. But it's like that. It's like when it's 9 to 5, I'm clocking in and I'm clocking out. I'm not gonna give the place more because I need my time. My time is worth something to me too. But I also find those projects like the social and distancing show,
Right.
and I put efforts towards this, which I love. And I feel, that one of the things, Trevor, that I feel like I've been able to say throughout this whole change in world and life kind of things is people are like, how are you holding up? And I'm like, I got to be honest with you. I'm thriving. I'm thriving during this time. I don't feel like I'm in lockdown, but I am, but I'm thriving and I'm enjoying
That's
it.
amazing.
I mean,
I love
great
that.
people like this guy named Trevor Franklin over here. So,
Right, exactly.
That's good.
so
Hey, Trevor, we got a question from one of our viewers, and she has, Trevor, I'm a parent to 2 young kids. Can you share some of the things your parents, coaches, mentors would speak into you regularly? Your self-talk and your mentality are bomb.
Okay, we're friends again. Unblocked.
Good memory.
Again, I really don't think I'd be anything or anywhere close to where I am today without my mom, my stepdad, and my father, and how they raised me. A couple of big things that came from them was that, again, if you want something, work for it, right? Like they told me from a pretty young age, the world sucks, right? Like you're not going to be just handed things. And if you actually want to achieve something, you've got to put the work in. There's no shortcuts. And I think that really translated for me personally in the fitness industry because, you see a lot of diet pills, you see a lot of 10-minute ab exercises, but I've been working at this for 10 plus years.
7 minutes.
7 minute abs. Oh, we got that new Joe. We're about to plug on the abs. But it's like there's something to be said about putting like your blood, sweat, tears, and just hours into something and seeing it come to like fruition. There's something to be said about that. So they were always.
Yes, you're right about that.
Yeah, the world isn't going to give you anything. If you want it, work for it. And one thing that I've always carried with me is a victor mentality versus a victim mentality. And that has been timeless. No matter what's going on in the world, if you really take extreme ownership of maybe the decisions you make, the choices you make, the things that you do in your day-to-day life, when you take that extreme ownership and have pride in what you're doing, for me personally, it really led to me focusing on my work and to do a great job at whatever it is, right? The third thing they told me was no matter what you are, be a good one. I've been a bank teller, I've been a Hollister employee, I've been a waiter. In all of those jobs, my objective was to be the best of whatever it may be, right? And I think that, again, translates to whatever pursuits you might have, because you can't really teach work ethic, right? Like work ethic has to kind of come from within, and it takes time to get there. But I think once I put hours into something and, again, saw it come to fruition and saw that success, it was like that snowball we talked about earlier. It's right. You just need the momentum, and for your kids, Carrie, I don't know how old they are, but if you can start that positive reinforcement for them and give them that momentum as early as possible to believe in themselves, to instill their self-confidence, but to also understand that, hey, this life isn't going to just hand you things, you're not going to win the lottery 5 days a week. Sometimes you have to go out and take it, right? You got to be a little bit aggressive with the goals that you want to achieve. You can't really sit on the sidelines when there's so many people playing the game, and so I think that could be a great start for them to kind of get that snowball rolling. And they can always reach out to me for some tough love.
Awesome.
Nice.
Trevor, you were hitting on something earlier that kind of resonated with me earlier too. So, man, there's something like when you study a craft of some kind, and kind of like we were saying earlier, start something and you fail, but then getting back up and everything. Let me show you this real quick. I hope I don't make anyone struggle. So I told myself at the beginning of this year I was going to bust butt and learn how to really bake. And this is the first cake right here this year that someone paid me to make. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And they told me what to make. And I studied and I researched and I was like, I've got a recipe I just created and I'm going to try it out and see what goes. I worked on this thing till like 4 or 5 in the morning,
Oh my
and I made
Work
homemade
ethic,
caramel
baby.
for the first time, burned it 3 or 4 times, got it right on the last time, incorporated it into this cake, and I looked at this thing and I was like, man, I took it into the people who bought it for me. They bought it for their boss for his birthday or boss's day. They ate it, and then, man, the comments started flooding in, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, this cake is amazing!" Oh my, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm just like, it was overwhelming, man. Like, it was overwhelming. One person gave me the greatest compliment I've ever had on my cakes or anything I've made. She was like, "I've had dreams about that cake since I've eaten it."
God.
Holy stuff. I was like, stop talking. Don't say anything else. Okay, I can't do
Yeah, we're
it. I
done
couldn't do
here.
it. And I remember I had to go away for a minute. I had to disconnect and I'm an emotional guy, man. So I'm bawling my eyes out because I'm like, that's too much to handle. Like the overflow of people sharing, like it made me feel like my study, my effort, my work, everything went into this, and people recognized it, and it was a superb feeling. There's nothing quite like it, man.
That's awesome, man. Yo, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
No shortcut to that. You can't,
Till
yeah,
4
no
or 5 in
shortcut
the
to
morning.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, and I had to go to work that morning. So the next morning, it was.
I love that. I
Jade
love
shared
that.
something. You have your own blog, is that right?
Yeah. So I actually started that, but thank you, Jade, for the shout out. That's so great. Yeah, so I started this blog a little bit before I moved, actually, and what my biggest pride in that blog is it encapsulates a lot of my a lot of the trials, tribulations, and struggles that I went through before moving to New York and as I moved to New York. Those are some of my favorite things I've blogged about. It talks a little more in depth about my upbringing. So Carrie, that could be a good one for you to read because it talks about how my parents parented me when I was younger. And there's workouts on there. There's fitness stuff. I sell some merchandise, sell some workout plans. It's just a bunch of different things, and it's kind of my personal brand. Yeah.
Nice.
Look at my parents. Look how cute my parents are.
Aw.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So, Trevor, while he's kind of showing that, what was the biggest shock from going from Texas to New York?
Biggest shock, man. That's tough. There's so many different things. I think my initial thing when I moved was just the sheer energy of this place. I remember coming out of Penn Station into like the heart of Manhattan and just being like hit with a wave of energy,
Wow.
and that was weird for me because, again, love Lubbock, Texas, right? Would never, ever, ever knock Lubbock, Texas. But man, that's just something that's really hard to experience when you're not in this mecca, So I think the energy was huge. There's not a lot of Mexican restaurants, which is unfortunate. So I've had to pivot on that one. But yeah, the energy, and again, I feel like I've come across a lot more like-minded individuals when it comes to like the hustle than I came across in the Midwest. And again, like, that's not knocking the Midwest. It's not necessarily saying that New York's the best place to be. But for where I was in my headspace when I was 23 and I moved here, that's what I needed. I needed to see other individuals that were outworking me, right? Like, I needed to see people that were doing what I wanted to do, right? Because that's why I moved here. I moved here to kind of test myself, if you will, right? To see if I can cut it with some of the best in the world. And that's like the kick in the butt that I needed. And I think those are the biggest things for me.
Wow.
That's a great picture right there, man.
That is. I love it.
Yo, Jade Bierman actually took that. She's a phenomenal photographer.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah,
Good job,
phenomenal.
Jade.
Yeah,
Good job,
incredible.
Jade.
That's before I had a manly beard.
Well, Trevor, we're coming up on the end of our time with you, and I just want to say you've been an excellent guest. We love your energy and
Love
your
your
story
passion.
and your
Thank you,
passion.
Sandy. I appreciate
and you
that.
can
Thank
definitely feel that coming through. So, one thing that we do for our guests at the end of the show is we allow them some time to plug whatever they want to plug, whether it be your website, your fitness,
dangerous.
your quest for world peace, whatever you want to do. Now's your time. So go ahead and feel free to say what you want to say.
Great. Yeah. So, guys, I mean, if you want to keep up with my journey, obviously I'm here on Facebook. I think Joe might have tagged me in something. I'm also on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active is on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at TWFrank111, 3 ones. Don't forget. As far as brands, I'm really passionate about this brand Noco. They're phenomenal. It's an energy drink company from Sweden. So if you don't know a whole lot about them, they have a lot stricter guidelines in the United States, and so I actually know what the ingredients are when I read the label, which makes me happy because
Right.
I like to have some sense of health in my life, right? And so I'm a big fan of their brand. Yeah, keep up my website. Again, I like to blog. I like to talk about the struggles that I'm going through in my day-to-day life because, again, none of us are perfect, and unfortunately, social media has the habit of really promoting our highlights and not our struggles. And so I try to be as open as I can about the struggles that I deal with because we all have our own demons,
Right.
Nice.
Awesome.
And Jamie?
Yeah, so we like to ask a question to all of our guests who come on, and we ask them to give us a topic for a future episode. So with that in mind, do you have a topic that Joe, Sandy, and myself can cover for a future episode?
And it's
Ooh, that's-
PG-13
No, right.
and positive.
I would never have anything above PG-13, Joe. All right?
right.
I'm a saint. All right. Saint. Man, that's a good question. I really enjoy hearing people's like life stories and like trials and tribulations of overcoming some sort of adversity. So whether that be maybe talking to somebody who maybe dealt with like a major injury or like a huge setback in their life, I think could be, and maybe you've already covered that. I'm not 100% sure, but
No, that's
Nope.
okay.
Don't worry, even if we have, it's your topic.
yeah,
Yeah.
redo it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Any story where I can, because it's so great to pinpoint that moment where somebody's like, you know what, I'm a freaking bad A dude or girl or whoever, right? Like I can do this, whatever it may be. That kind of stuff gets me fired up, and that kind of stuff like restores my faith in humanity.
Nice.
I'm writing it down.
He's putting it down. And then one last question from one of our guests. New York pizza or Texas pizza? Which is better?
So to those that follow me, I'm a big Domino's guy.
He's a big Domino's fan, yeah.
Like don't crucify me yet, right? Big Domino's guy.
Dude, those guys really shaped up their game, about a decade ago.
Their stock is killing
Yeah.
it. But yeah, so I can testify that Domino's is better in New York than it is in Texas. I know it's crazy. Better ingredient, I don't know what it is. But yeah, I will say that New York does have some pretty awesome pizza joints, and they're just in such abundance. It's pretty aggressive. Like it's definitely dangerous if you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle.
So I'm gonna pivot off of that question real quick since I'm over here, and I'm gonna say New York pizza or Chicago pizza. Yeah.
Oh, deep dish all day. I
really?
Pie. I love it. Yeah, I love a thick pie.
Okay, cool.
I gotta have it. I want like layers to that thing.
Right.
It's insane up here, man. The first time I had it, I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
this is amazing."
Like,
I was like, "Are you sure we should get a small?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's fine. It'll be fine."
I love that.
So
Well, Trevor, go ahead, Sandy. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Earlier, you said that you had a passion, like even if you could help somebody shave 10 seconds off of their running pace.
Mm-hmm.
Can you help me with that?
Oh, hey, girl, I got you. So it's funny. I was going through marathon training a couple of months back, and I was supposed to run a marathon. I got moved, but I consistently was cutting my paces down by following a structured program. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely reach out to me. I can send you some different articles and some of the programs that I did, because it's all about, again, having purpose behind what you do and not just going out and running a certain distance every day. You got to work all of your metabolic pathways. You need to work in sprints, long runs, and tempo runs, and I can 100% help you with that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nasty. That was
look, that's fancy.
That was
That's some
drop.
fancy talk.
That mic just dropped.
Science at you real quick, Sandy.
right. Trevor, thank you again. Trevor, thank you again for, I know it's late for you, and I know you got to get up to your early clients and stuff like that, but thank you so much for coming on. I knew that you'd be a great guest, and
of course.
your story is just awesome, sir. So
glad
whenever
I
you come back to
didn't fall asleep before
Lubbock,
this
make sure you
happened.
look me up.
Yo, Joe, you got it, man. You're the first guy hitting up.
All right, awesome.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, Trevor. Have a good night, sir.
Hey,
See
guys,
ya.
have a great night. Thank you.
Oh, I cut him off right there.
You cut him
Didn't mean
off.
to.
What's up with
Sorry.
that? So, if you need motivation, that was some motivation right there.
Like we've been motivating you all week long. I mean, seriously.
Right? Yeah. If y'all are missing out on motivation this week, there's something wrong with you.
Right. You're not paying attention.
Right.
You gotta really listen in, okay?
Yeah. Are you just
muted
listening
us?
to my jokes or what?
No, I think they mute us and just watch us move our mouth.
Right. Exactly.
So here's his Instagrams or whatever.
Oh, I followed him. I went on like, what? What'd you say it was? TW?
Right, yeah. No, that's his website. Yeah. That's his website.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
He's CEO. I like that. Chasing every opportunity. So
Yeah.
That's
pretty
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good catch, Joe.
Yeah.
Good catch.
You like that? You
Yeah,
like that?
that
Well,
guy
he
was awesome.
didn't. He actually made a website for it. I didn't. It's not.
No, I'm
anything.
saying like just to bring him on the show,
Oh, okay.
finding
Yeah.
our occupational dimension wellness expert.
Yeah.
And,
Can
and
you?
we always say that we can find that you can feel the passion. I mean, this guy was passionate. Like you could feel the passion. And I mean, talking about how he went and he worked for it. Like no one's ever given him anything, and listen, when he was telling, I tell my kids, I'm like, life's not fair.
That's what I tell my kids, Sandy.
People suck.
They're like, but Thea
And-
always makes it fair for us.
Yeah, you better work for what you want. No one's going to give you anything. And then they
Right.
call me like, Mom, I need $20 in my lunch account. Okay, babies, here it goes. But other than that, no one's going to give you anything.
Yeah. Who's the enabler?
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, what a great end to the mini series for this week. We still got 4 more dimensions coming up and excellent guests coming up to talk about the remaining dimensions. We got some sequels in upcoming episodes also coming up. I know you guys asked for both the doctors to come
For
back.
both of the doctors to come back,
yeah.
right?
So Dr. Cannon and Dr. Pineapples, both of which have agreed to come back and do a second follow-up for the ketamine therapy and for the emotional wellness that Dr. Pineapples was talking about last night.
Nice.
So
Please
I
go back.
think maybe
go
we
ahead.
should have, I'm sorry, maybe we should have everybody have their questions ready,
Yeah. So,
for both doctors.
yeah.
That way they can,
Because we tend to stray from.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if, they're coming back. So if you have questions that you're thinking of now, just go ahead and write them down so you won't forget on the day of the show
Right.
when they come back.
Yeah, and we may actually put a post up so you guys can ask those questions directly. We're still kind of working through that, but we'll let you know.
Yeah.
And then come back tomorrow night, everyone. We got some fun show tomorrow night. It's going to be our Tres Fridays. Joe's
Tres.
going to be dealing up with another
Flashback.
Flashback Friday. Thank you. And then Sandy.
She's still working on it. She don't know what she's doing.
And I have a freaky story that I'm really excited to share with you guys. I hope you're gonna come ready for this one. It's deep. I'm gonna tell you, it's deep.
Nice.
So everyone, have a great night, and as usual,
Remember to wash your hands.
for at least 20 seconds.
Yeah, filthy animals.
Good
night,
evening, everyone.
everybody.
Good night, everyone. So it's amazing how people have been so motivational this week, and I still have not done any exercise.
I mean, really, Joe.
It takes a special kind of bleep.
I am telling you, if they were to bring me on as a client, I would be their worst nightmare. They would hate me. We would not be friends anymore. So
Would be the reason
But
they
I'm
quit.
serious, guys. Tomorrow night's freaky story is going to be deep.
yeah,